Most people believe the backrooms are endless yellow hallways, fluorescent lights, old carpet, buzzing ceilings. They're only half right, because eventually, if you keep walking long enough, you'll hear water. I didn't find the poolrooms. The poolrooms found me. It happened after a long drive home. It had been raining for hours, the kind of rain that makes every street look unfamiliar. Every traffic light reflected on the pavement. Every building looked softer, as though the world had fallen half asleep. I missed my exit, then another. Soon my GPS stopped speaking altogether. The screen froze. No map, no roads, only a blue circle, slowly drifting across a grey background. Then, without warning, the screen went black. One sentence appeared: recalculating location. I pulled over beside what looked like an old recreation center. At least that's what I thought it was. The parking lot was empty. No calculating location. I pulled over beside what looked like an old recreation center. At least that's what I thought it was. The parking lot was empty, not abandoned, simply unused. The rain had stopped. The air was perfectly still. No wind, no insects, no distant traffic. Only silence. I noticed the front door was slightly open. Warm light spilled into the pavement. I should have stayed in my car. Instead, I stepped inside. The lobby smelled faintly of chlorine, clean towels, fresh concrete, the kind of smell you only notice at indoor swimming pools. The reception desk was empty. A clipboard rested on the counter. Only one page, only one sentence. Welcome back. Lane assignment pending. I frowned. Back. I'd never been there before. Ahead, a long hallway stretched into the distance. Yellow titles, cream-colored walls, soft light humming overhead. The deeper I walked, the warmer the air became. Then I heard it. Water, not splashing, not flowing, simply existing, echoing gently through impossible distances. The hallway ended, and before me was the first pool. It was beautiful, crystal clear, perfectly still. Warm light reflected across the surface like liquid gold. There wasn't a single ripple, no lifeguard, no chairs, no clocks, only water and silence. It should have felt lonely. Instead, it felt welcoming. else's voice, answering from far away. No answer, only echoes. I decided to keep walking. A doorway stood at the opposite end of the room. No door, just an opening. Beyond it, another pool. Different shape, different size. Same yellow titles, same warm lights, same impossible silence. The third room contained dozens of floating bowl noodles, perfectly aligned. None of them moved, not even slightly. The fourth room contained rows of empty lounge chairs. Every chair faced the water, as though people had been sitting there moments earlier, watching something. I kept checking behind me. Every room disappeared. The moment I left it, the doorway remained. But when I looked back, there was always a different pool. Time slowly lost meaning. I couldn't remember how many rooms I'd crossed. 20, 50, 100. Every pool felt familiar, as though I'd seen it before, years ago, perhaps in a dream. Then I noticed the footprints, wet footprints, fresh, leading away from the water. No return footprints, only one direction. I followed them, room after room. The footprints never dried, never faded, always just ahead, like I had missed someone, but only a few seconds. Eventually, they stopped in the center of an empty room. No chairs, no ladders, no exits, only water and footprints, ending at the edge, as though whoever made them had simply walked into the pool. I stared into the water. Nothing, only my reflection. Then my reflection blinked. I hadn't. It smiled, very slightly, almost kindly. I stepped backward. The reflection remained standing at the edge, watching me. The smile never changed. Told myself I was tired, nothing more. The next doorway led somewhere impossible. The ceiling became lower, the air warmer. Steam drifted across the room. The water glowed faintly blue. Somewhere beneath the surface, something slowly moved. Not towards me, not away, just circling. Too deep to identify, too slow to fear. Then a gentle voice echoed through invisible speakers, calm, comforting, almost sleepy. Swimming hours have been extended. A pause. Guests may remain as long as necessary. I frowned. Guest. Who else was there? The announcement continued. Towels are provided. Memories are optional. I laughed quietly. It had to be an old recording. It didn't make sense. stood open. Inside each one sat nearly folded clothes, shoes, wallets, watches, phones, all different, all untouched. One locker contained clothes identical to mine, same jacket, same shoes, same backpack. I checked my own backpack. It was still there, still on my shoulder. So, whose belonging were these? Sign rested above the lockers. Please leave what you no longer need. I walked away faster. The water slowly became louder, not because it moved, because I began noticing whispers. At first, they blended into the echoes, barely noticeable. Then, individual words emerged. Gently, rest, almost home. None of the voices sounded frightening. They sounded comforting, like old friends speaking from another room. The strangest part was that I recognized one of them. It sounded exactly like my own voice, whispering softly, "Keep walking." I didn't remember saying it, yet somehow it felt familiar. Eventually, I reached the largest room. It stretched farther than I could see, an endless indoor sea. Mist floated above the surface. Tiny lights shimmered beneath the water, like stars. There was no opposite wall, no ceiling, no water. Only disappearing into darkness. In the center stood a lifeguard chair, empty except for a clipboard. I climbed the steps, one page, thousands of names, perfect handwriting. Every line ended with the same word. Floating. Near the bottom, I found my own name. Next to it, almost had already written, "Arrived." The page beneath it was blank, waiting. At the very bottom, one final question. "How long would you like to stay?" I don't know why, but I almost answered. A gentle splash echoed behind me. I turned. Someone stood waist deep in the water, too far away to recognize. They slowly raised one hand and waved, not asking me to come closer, simply welcoming me. Then suddenly another figure appeared, then another and another. Hundreds standing silently beneath the warm lights. None of them moved, none of them spoke. They simply watched the water as though they'd been there for years, perfectly content. For the first time, I felt afraid, not because of them, because I wanted to join them. The water looked peaceful, warmer than anything I'd ever felt. Every worry, every responsibility, every memory suddenly seemed far away. I took one step towards the edge, then another, then water touched my feet. It was warm, almost impossibly warm, like stepping into a memory. Instead of a pool, the whispers grew softer, more comforting. "You can rest now. No more searching, no more before leaving. I closed my eye. Then, somewhere behind me, a door slammed shut. The sound exploded through the endless room. Every whisper stopped. Every reflection disappeared. Every figure beneath the waters turned towards me, not angrily, curiously, as though they hadn't expected me to hear it. I opened my eyes. The warmth vanished. For the first time, the water looked empty, cold, silent, still. I ran through doorway after doorway, pool after pool, hallway after hallway. The light seemed dimmer now, the echoes longer. Behind me, I heard no footsteps, no splashing, only one announcement, repeating gently through unseen speakers. We hope you enjoyed your visit. I paused. Your lane will remain reversed. I finally reached the lobby. The front door stood open. Rain poured outside. My car was exactly where I left it. The GPS worked again. The building behind me was gone. Only an empty parking lot remained. I drive home. I never told anyone. Because how could I explain it? How could I explain a place that felt more peaceful than reality itself? But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I hear it. Just beneath the sound of my shower, just beneath the rain outside my window, a single gentle splash